Hi everybody, welcome to Shell Lectures. So in this video, we'll be talking about biomolecules. So what are biomolecules basically? That's what we have to know at first. So biomolecules are nothing but organic compounds which are necessary for the proper functioning of the common activities of living organisms. So what are biomolecules? Biomolecules are organic compounds which are very essential for governing the common activities of living organisms. So there are a lot of biomolecules as we know, like carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, lipids and vitamins and mineral salts. About all of these we'll be learning in this particular chapter. So first of all we have to know about carbohydrates. So what are carbohydrates, and we'll be learning something about it in detail. Carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, as we know very well, are predominantly produced by plants. Okay, so they are predominantly produced by plants and they form the very large group of naturally occurring organic compounds because they are produced from plants. And some examples include starch, glucose. We can have starch and then we can have glucose. And also we can have cane sugar, this sucrose. So starch, glucose and cane sugar, all of these are examples for carbohydrates which are predominantly produced by plants. Okay, so the general formula for carbohydrates is what we must know, that is CXH2OY. So this is the general formula which is meant for carbohydrates, but this doesn't mean that all the compounds which have or which abide by this particular general formula come under the category of carbohydrates. It's not like that. There is one exception which is rhamnose. So this is important. This is one exception to this formula. It's a carbohydrate. Its formula is C6H12O5. It is a carbohydrate, but it does not abide by this formula. Whereas we can have glucose, which is also a carbohydrate, and its formula is C6H12O6. So I can write this as C, and in the place of X I can write 6, and H2O, and in the place of Y I can write 6. Because H12 and O6. So glucose is also a carbohydrate. It abides by this general formula, whereas there is one exception to that general formula, that is rhamnose, which is C6H12O5. Okay. Then just in general we can define carbohydrates as optically active polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones, or the compounds which produce them on hydrolysis. That is, when we make it react with water, it will be producing polyhydroxy aldehydes or ketones, or they themselves are polyhydroxy acetones or ketones, aldehydes or ketones. Okay, they are optically active. That's also important. So in general we can say carbohydrates are optically active aldehydes or ketones, or the compounds which produce them when hydrolyzed, that is when added with water. So we are very familiar with the normal sugar that we use in our home, that is sucrose, whereas the sugar which is present in milk is lactose. Okay, so the carbohydrate, they are also they are called as sugars because they are sweet in taste. So we can tell that carbohydrates which are sweet in taste are called sugars. Okay, so we can classify carbohydrates on the basis of their behavior of hydrolysis, that is on the basis of how they hydrolyze, that is when reacting with water, how do they just split into. Based on that we can classify carbohydrates into monosaccharides, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. So these are the three divisions of carbohydrates. These are the three divisions of carbohydrates based on their ability to get hydrolyzed. So mono, the word itself says one. Okay, so it's a carbohydrate which cannot be even hydrolyzed. Okay, it cannot be hydrolyzed at all to produce another simple unit. Okay, for example glucose or fructose or ribose. Examples are what important here. So let me write it in short form: glucose, fructose and ribose are examples for monosaccharides. So monosaccharides are itself, they are themselves, they do not actually hydrolyze to give simpler units. Okay, so those kind of things are known as monosaccharides, and monosaccharides are still classified on the basis of the number of carbon atoms and the functional group present in them. Okay, if the functional group is aldehyde, then the monosaccharide is known as aldose. If it is a keto group, if the functional group is a keto group, then it's known as ketose. Okay, so based on the number of carbon atoms also we can actually separate this. That is, if there are 3 carbon atoms, we call it as triose. If it's 4, tetrose. Okay, so based on the number of carbon atoms, we can split monosaccharides as triose, tetrose, pentose, hexose, heptose, and based on the functional groups which are present. For example, if it's aldehyde, we say aldose. If it's 3 carbon and aldehyde, then we say trialdose. For tetrad, or we say aldotriose. For ketone, we say ketotriose. Okay, so that's all is about monosaccharides. So monosaccharides are still classified into based on the presence or the number of carbon atoms and the functional group present in them. Then we have to talk about oligosaccharides, that is the carbohydrates which yield, that is which produce 2 to 10 monosaccharides when we hydrolyze it. That is, when we add it with water, oligosaccharides, when we add it with water, it will be producing 2 to 10 monosaccharides. So we know that monosaccharides do not further hydrolyze to produce any simpler units. So this will produce nearly 2 to 10 monosaccharides. Okay, so based on that we can call that as disaccharides if it's 2, trisaccharides if it's 3, tetrasaccharides if it's 4. Okay, so based on the number of the monosaccharides which have been produced due to the hydrolysis, we can call it that way. So the most common one here we have always been hearing about is disaccharides, as we know very well. So when we actually hydrolyze a disaccharide, what will be formed? It's obvious, monosaccharides will be formed. And it's not like every disaccharide will be producing only this monosaccharide. For example, we have sucrose, which is a disaccharide. It produces glucose and fructose. When we hydrolyze sucrose, it is a disaccharide. It produces glucose and fructose. Whereas there is another one disaccharide which is known as maltose, which gives only 2 molecules of glucose. So sucrose is also a disaccharide which gives glucose and fructose, whereas maltose is also a disaccharide which gives you only 2 glucose molecules. Then we have to know about polysaccharides. The word itself says poly. So a large number of monosaccharide units are produced due to the hydrolysis. Okay, and here the examples include starch, glycogen, cellulose. So these all are examples for polysaccharides, that is the compounds which, the carbohydrates which give away a lot of monosaccharides. Okay, so they are actually not at all sweet in taste, as you can see from the examples, starch, glycogen, cellulose. So they are all known as non-sugars. So just now we learned about sugars and non-sugars. Sugars are ones which are sweet like sucrose and all that, and non-sugars, all polysaccharides are non-sugars. And also we have another one classification which talks about reducing sugars, and non-reducing sugars. Here also the word itself says reducing sugars. Reducing sugars are nothing but the carbohydrates which can reduce, am I right, which can reduce something. So which can reduce Fehling solution and tolerance reagent. So they are the 2 things which are reduced by reducing sugars are Fehling solution and tolerance reagent. So the reducing sugars are ones which reduce Fehling solution and tolerance reagent, and the ones which are unable to reduce is known as non-reducing sugars. So reducing sugars, they are like all the monosaccharides are example for reducing sugars. Okay, all the monosaccharides are examples for reducing sugars. And for non-reducing sugars, the sugars in which the functional groups are free, okay, they are all the reducing sugars like maltose, lactose. Okay, maltose, lactose. Okay, so here actually what happens is the reducing group are bonded. Okay, The reducing group are bonded, so they cannot actually reduce these kind of sugars. Okay, so aldehyde and ketone groups are bonded to each other, so they cannot reduce, so that is why they are non-reducing sugars. And a very good example is maltose, lactose. Okay, sorry, here non-reducing sugars example is sucrose. Okay, sucrose is a good example. When the aldehyde groups and ketone groups are bonded to each other, they can't reduce the tolerance reagent and filling solution, so they come under non-reducing sugar. So it's not maltose and lactose, I'm sorry, it is sucrose. Non-reducing sugars are sucrose example. And for reducing sugar, all the monosaccharides, whether they are aldose or ketos, all comes under reducing sugars. So now we must know about the preparation of glucose. Okay, that is aldohexose. So we know that, why do we say it as aldohexose? It contains an aldehyde group and it is actually containing 6 carbon atoms. So we call it as hexose, aldohexose. Okay, so how can we prepare glucose? The first thing by which we can prepare glucose, as we told just now, is we can hydrolyze a disaccharide. What is that? Just now we learned, under oligosaccharides we learned, that is sucrose, right? When you hydrolyze sucrose, you will be getting glucose and fructose. So that is a good way of preparing glucose. So when sucrose is boiled with in acidic medium and added with water, that is when it is hydrolyzed, what is that? Glucose and fructose are produced in equal amounts. So we are now talking about preparation of glucose, so that is worth talking. And then we can also prepare it from starch by hydrolyzing it again. Okay, so the two ways by which glucose can be prepared is from sucrose by hydrolysis, and the second thing is from starch. Okay, glucose is obtained by starch hydrolyzation, and here also we are boiling it with dilute sulfuric acid. Okay, so when you are taking starch or even cellulose and when you are hydrolyzing it, you will be getting glucose. So when you hydrolyze sucrose, starch or cellulose, you will be getting glucose. Okay, so this is how we can prepare glucose. Now we have to know about the chemical reactions of glucose. So what are all the chemical reactions that glucose undergoes? Chemical reactions. So the first thing which we must know is about oxidation. So we know what is oxidation, that is addition of oxygen, am I right? So when glucose, actually for these kind of reactions, we actually write glucose as CHO, CHOH4, CH2OH. So this is how we represent glucose for writing these chemical reactions, though the very basic known formula is C6H12O6. So when questions are asked like this, we must be aware that this is also glucose. So when we add tolerance reagent, we know that tolerance reagent reacts with, that is the sugars which reduce tolerance reagent are monosaccharides, right? So here we have glucose, which is also a monosaccharide, right? So it will obviously reduce tolerance reagent, am I right? So when it reduces tolerance reagent, we'll be getting gluconic acid. So we'll just learn the product's name. So when you reduce glucose with tolerance reagent and by adding acid, you will be getting gluconic acid along with a silver mirror, that is a silver deposition will be seen on the test tube. Okay, so first let us write, when we add tolerance reagent, when we add a tolerance reagent, it will be producing gluconic acid plus a silver mirror. So let me write it as Ag. And when we add it with, let me write glucose plus tolerance reagent. And when we add it with filling solution, we will also be getting gluconic acid, but the byproduct is what differs. We will be getting gluconic acid along with copper oxide, which is a red precipitate. Okay, so here we get silver mirror and here we get red precipitate. And when you are reacting it with bromine water, you will again be getting gluconic acid. So with bromine water also the same story. And the last thing is, when you react it with concentrated HNO3, you will be getting saccharic acid. Okay, so basically glucose, when it reacts with tolerance reagent, you will be getting gluconic, gluconic, gluconic. So silver is what differs. So with tolerance reagent it produces silver mirror, with Fehling solution it produces a red precipitate of copper oxide, with bromine water it produces only gluconic acid, and with concentrated HNO3 it produces saccharic acid. So this is one chemical reaction, that is a chemical property of glucose which we must know. Now the next thing which we must know about glucose, B, is reduction. So the next thing which we must know is reduction. So when we react, that is when we add glucose to sodium mercury amalgam and hydrolyze it. Okay, so we are adding glucose to sodium mercury amalgam and we are hydrolyzing it. We will be getting sorbitol. So these names are necessary. Sorbitol, we will be getting sorbitol. And when you are doing the same thing with glucose plus phosphorus plus hydrogen iodide, and when you are heating it, you will be getting N-hexane, that is normal hexane molecule you will be getting. So with reduction, glucose when it reacts with sodium mercury amalgam, when hydrolyzed it produces sorbitol, and the same glucose with phosphorus plus hydrogen iodide when heated, produces a normal hexane molecule. Okay, and then the special reaction is with hydroxylamine. So that is a special reaction. So glucose when it reacts with hydroxylamine, that is NH2OH. The formula is not very difficult. NH2OH, hydroxylamine, it will be producing glucose oxime. Okay, so this is a special reaction with hydroxylamine. So when glucose reacts with hydroxylamine, it will be giving you glucose oxime. And next special reaction is with hydrogen cyanide. So glucose plus hydrogen cyanide, it's HCl, will give you glucose. The name is easy to remember, cyanohydrin. Glucose cyanohydrin. So this is how it reacts with hydrogen cyanide. Then the next reaction is acetylation. Acetylation is nothing but addition of some kind of an acetyl compound. Am I right? So we are adding acetyl chloride. Okay. So when we add acetyl chloride to glucose, we will be getting glucose pentaacetate. Glucose pentaacetate is what we will be receiving when acetylated. And then the reaction with phenylhydrazine. Okay, so the reaction with phenylhydrazine is when it reacts with glucose, when it reacts with phenylhydrazine, it will give you glucoseazone. Okay, so just we'll do a recap of what we have written here. So when it gets reduced, glucose plus sodium mercury amalgam, when it's hydrolyzed, gives you sorbitol. With phosphorus and hydrogen iodide, it gives normal hexane. With hydroxylamine, it gives glucose oxime. With hydrogen cyanide, it gives glucose cyanohydrin. With acetylation, it will give you glucose pentaacetate, and with phenylhydrazine, it will give you glucoseazone. Okay, so that is a mechanism which is meant for the last reaction, which you want, if you want, you can go through. So the configuration in monosaccharides, that is how the carbon atoms and the hydrogen atoms are or the functional groups are arranged in monosaccharides. Configuration in monosaccharides. Okay, so configuration in monosaccharides is actually, for assigning this, we must actually see the lowest carbon in the molecule. Okay, we must see the lowest carbon in the molecule and we must compare. For example, when we talk about plus glucose glucose is a dextrorotatory compound, okay. So plus glucose, and we talk about plus glyceraldehyde. So two compounds which we are talking about here. So when I write glucose, I will be writing it as CHO, C, then first thing here it's HOH. The third carbon alone suffers a change, that is H and OH here, and then we have same OHH, OH, H, CH2OH. So this is how a glucose molecule, the plus glucose molecule will look like, and glyceraldehyde will look like CHO, CH2OH, H. So in these two are actually dextrorotatory compounds, okay. So here we are assigning D configuration for plus glucose, and for this also we are assigning D configuration because we are seeing the lowest asymmetric carbon. So when we see the lowest asymmetric carbon, for the lowest asymmetric carbon, the carbon it's on the right side. I mean the OH group of the lowest asymmetric carbon. So as you can see here, the hydroxyl group of the last carbon is on the right side for both of them. So when we compare this glucose with plus glyceraldehyde, we can give this glucose dextrorotatory configuration, okay. So plus glyceraldehyde is similar here, OH is present at the right as far as the last asymmetrical carbon is concerned. Here also the same thing. So when we compare this, we can write it as D plus glucose, and we can write it as D plus glyceraldehyde, okay. And then we have to know about the cyclic structure of glucose. So we know that there are 6 carbon atoms in glucose, and glucose actually forms a cyclic structure. Glucose actually forms a cyclic structure. So we can write it as COH, H, then we have C, So the second thing also it's OHH. The third thing alone, as I told you, will change it into OHH, and then we have HOH. And this O alone will be like this. So you can see that this is the first carbon, second carbon, third carbon, fourth carbon and fifth carbon, and this is the sixth carbon. So from this diagram even we can come to know that the OH group, actually you can see here O is here and H is here, the OH group of the fifth carbon. So as you can see here, the OH group of the fifth carbon is what makes the cycle. So here it goes here and it comes like this, like this, like this. So the 6-membered ring or the cyclic structure of glucose is actually the OH group which is present at the fifth carbon, okay. So here it actually explains the absence of CHO group, okay. It explains the absence of CHO group, that is the aldehyde group is absent here. Okay, so actually it also explains the existence of glucose in other two different forms, which we can write like the OH can be placed here itself. This H and this O can be placed here itself. So it will be like C. Okay, let me draw it again. So it will be CHOH. Don't mind the first carbon, I have not written anything in that so far. COH. Then also we will be getting COHH and then COHH, CH2OH. So can you see some difference here? Here O is here and H is here. So I have written OH here. So there is one OH here. So what happens is one H gets bonded here and the other becomes like this. Okay. So this is the basic structure, and this is known as the alpha D glucose. This structure is known as alpha D glucose. This is the basic structure of glucose, and then there is one more structure which is known as the beta D glucose. So how do we write beta D glucose? That is the same thing, but here what we do is HOH stays as it is. Only all the things are actually put here and there. Okay. So here you can see. Let me write it again. Beta D glucose. Let me write it. Beta D glucose. Actually what is beta D glucose? It's C, the first carbon alone changes, CHOH. Okay, so as you can see here, this alone gets changed. and then it is COHH, and then it is CHOH. The third carbon change is everywhere. COHH, and then CH. This is also a O, and it goes here. So the only change which you can find between this and this, what is that? Here OH is on the right side and here OH is on the left side. Okay, so alpha D glucose and beta D glucose is that thing. Okay, so here we can find two cyclic forms of glucose. Okay, so the difference is that the only difference between the two are the difference in the hydroxyl group. That is where the hydroxyl group is being placed. If it's on the right, it's alpha D glucose. If it's on the left, it's beta D glucose. Okay, so alpha and beta form. This alpha and beta form are known as anomers. So they are known as anomers. They are known as anomers. Okay, so alpha D glucose and beta D glucose are known as anomers. So this cyclic structure, that is this structure and this structure, is known as pyranose structure. Pyranose. Pyranose structure, that is the alpha and beta, because it's in analogy with a compound known as pyran. Pyran. Pyran, which looks something like this. Just a benzene ring, and here O, and this is what is known as pyran. So as these two forms are similar to this, we call the two structures as pyranose structures. Okay, it's a pyran is an organic compound with oxygen atom, and there are 5 carbon atoms in the ring. Am I right? And there are 2 double bonds also. So this is something which is known as the cyclic form, and then we also have one more form for glucose which is known as the Haworth structure. That also we have to know. Haworth structure. Haworth structure. The same thing for alpha glucopyranose we can draw first. For alpha glucopyranose we can draw first. The very important thing which has to be done here is this. We are going to draw the Haworth structure for this compound. So what we must do is, first we have to draw this hexagonal shape. Here we can place O, and here it will be like this, and like this. So this O is this. Okay. So what is that? What is there here? Let's go from here. This is CH2OH, right? So this is CH2OH. So can I write by placing a thing like this here? Let me write it as CH2OH, and down I have H. Okay, this hydrogen is what I am talking about. And then again I can do this thing, this carbon. Okay, so what is there at top? H. Am I right? So I have to put it H and OH, and then all these intermediaries are carbon. Okay, and then the next thing, OH is at the top. Am I right? So OH, H, and then H, OH, and then again H, OH, and then this carbon is attached to O, and again it comes back here, CH2OH, H. Okay, so it goes like that. Okay, so this is the structure, Haworth structure for alpha glycopyranose. And when we talk about beta glycopyranose, same thing, very easy. A diagram like that must be drawn with O there. O, then it comes like this. It's like this. Okay, so it comes like this. So the same thing we know very well, that only one change takes place here, that is this HOH changes into OHH. So not even looking at this formula, you can simply write by interchanging this HOH as OHH. Okay, so the remaining all these are similar, OHH, and then we have HOH, and then we have CH2OH. Okay, so this is all about glucose. In the further videos, I'll be talking about the several other biomolecules. So subscribe to my channel if you have not done so far. Like and share this video to whomever you know. Thank you so much for watching.